All right, so we are here today with Red, Wanting, Blue, preparing to release their new album, The Wanting.
That's right.
This Friday, right?
Yes, Friday.
This Friday. So, you guys are currently gearing up to release that album. It's a follow-up to 2014's Little America.
Little America, yeah.
How was Red, Wanting, Blue sort of change? Like, how have you guys changed over the past 4 years since that album, and how has that affected The Wanting?
It's huge. It's a big question. It's super loaded, but I'm going to give it a shot.
All right.
We had been a touring band for our entire career, leading up to that last record, Little America. And it wasn't until that record was finished that we decided to take time to make this next record in a different way and let our personal lives kind of catch up to the band life, because we had been completely devoted to doing band stuff, that everybody had sort of, we all had stuff, in our personal lives, that it was time to sort of make that happen. And so between the last record and this record, three of us have gotten married, we've all moved to different places, and it's reflected in the music, and, taking time to sort of, I feel like we fought it harder, like longer than most people do, for like before allowing like a sea change to just kind of come in. So the record is a very, I feel like it's a very different, I wouldn't say it's a departure, but I would definitely say there's been a lot of maturing from the last record to this record. Yeah.
Kind of moving back in time a bit, for over half of your career as a band, most of what you released was as an independent act. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, how has working with a major label been? Have there been any sort of things that you really valued as an independent act that, you don't get, but there's a certain trade-off to?
No comment. I think that's some of this new record that we've done now. We've been lucky enough to get, I think, the best of both worlds, because we released the record. When we were with the label, we definitely gained, like the team got bigger, which was great. So we felt like the reach of the bands, like, our arm got longer. We were able to get to places we'd never done before or gone before. And so that was great. But at the same time, we were met with certain, not necessarily, I wouldn't say, like, restriction's a bad word, because they were very good about letting us be creative. But I just think that, whether it was time or lack of money or whatever it was, there were just restrictions that you were left to you had to be a slave to a schedule.
Yeah.
And that before we started this new record, we said we're going to take the time while we have it before a label comes in and can dictate to us what we're doing, how we're doing it. So we took the time to make this record, and at one point we were like, if we have to release this independently again, we will do that. We've had a lot of experience in our life doing that. More bands are doing that now than ever. So, but it was lucky, it was a nice simple twist of fate that Blue Alon out of LA was like, we love this record, we really want to release this record. And so for them, they've been good sports, because we were kind of like, all right, well, this is a moving train, so you're like, if you're in, you got to jump on, let's go. And they've been really great about that. So we're excited to see this relationship and where it goes.
Yeah, and I guess moving on from that, how is it working? Like, thanks to these labels, you have the opportunity to work with so many amazing people. Mm-hmm. How is it working with Will Hodge, who produced the new record?
Oh, Will Hogue.
Hogue, yeah.
It's pronounced Hogue. It's pronounced, yes. No, we'll call him Hodge for this. Old Hodgie. Will is great. I'm gonna pass this mic around.
Will's like a musician first. He's like a producer. I think this may be his first record. He produces his music, but he was a producer for us, but he's a musician, so it was like we're all musicians that
it's like a real passion project.
Yeah, it was just like it's like a bunch of musicians like making a great record for the musician's sake and for like what we want to do as band members, as opposed to a producer being like, well, here I come as I'm producer, I'm sitting in the fancy chair,
Toured the country with him, so he knew us well.
Yeah, it was a friend.
So when we talk about shortcomings from those earlier records, he was one of those people who was like, I hear it, I know, I can tell. And he's like, I think we can, as friends, because we know each other, you can, how did he say it? He was like, I don't know if we were going to hit a bullseye, but he's like, I know that we'll get closer than some other producer that you just bring in that's got a fancy name. You know, he's like, I think we're going to make something great. And we trusted him.
Yeah, do you think that close sort of artistic relationship and understanding is going to come through in the record like immensely as opposed to past?
I think so. I think this is the first record I think we've ever made that we actually sound like the band that we are. You know, that's a band that started 2 decades ago. To be able to say that and be like, this is the first one that feels like it's actually us. Pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing, pretty important.
Yeah.
Pretty big deal.
Big deal.
Very important. Not a small detail.
No.
Yeah.
So, talking more about the record, you put out your first single, High and Dry, and as well as Ulysses, like the 2 singles.
Right.
And you described Ulysses as a dark horse of a love song. Can you tell us more about the creation of the track, the inspiration, and on a personal note, when I saw the single's name was Ulysses, I couldn't help but think of the James Joyce novel.
Oh, yeah.
Did that come into play at all? Like when?
Honestly, that came into play after the song was written. Where I remember scrolling through, looking through old paperback covers of the book, just because we were starting to figure out artwork for the record, and that was actually something I was looking at because I was like, oh man, like it was very cool. But I would say it's more of the traditional sense of Ulysses. I was thinking more like old, Greco-Roman times mythology, whether it's Odysseus, Ulysses, whatever. But as far as the song, the man holding the microphone over here, he's the one where that song could have started. So talk about it.
I mean, it was like the moment we always dream of, or what everybody thinks it happens in the studio. Like we were in our home studio and just like playing something. Scott was fiddling around with who knows what, like normal, like doing something in the studio or spray painting. Greg was in the room like working on another track with Marcus or something. So it was like everybody's doing their thing, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I kind of like that, and then Scott starts singing, and then it's like, oh yeah, ooh, we got something here, and then like, oh, I got this other thing, and then Mark kind of squirreled away and like put some computer magic in there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, I think we just wrote a song today. I think this just happened, and then it's like.
Now when we say it out loud, it sounds like a cliche. Then it's like when people are like, I don't even remember how we did it. It was divine intervention. It does occasionally
finally
happen
happened to us. We finally got one of those.
So then, about the album overall, would you say there's like not so much a narrative to it, but what are you really trying to communicate with it? What sort of like feelings you're trying to invoke? What sort of, I don't know, something sort of carried through?
No, I think that again, with us being we've historically, like, we're kind of autobiographical how we write. Write about our lives because it's the one thing that we can safely say that we have done the research and we know about we know all the details, and that's kind of, I think as songwriters we think. I have always felt that a good song is in the details, and a good story is in its details, and so I would say that the thread for this was trying to not necessarily abandon, but know that it's always there and like safe, like kind of put aside some of the more traditional things that we would write about. Like one of the things I'm really proud of is the structure, like the actual musical arrangements that like the band came up with for the songs. It's the most creative arranged record we've ever done by far, far and away. No, I'm okay. And I think like story, like I mean, as far as like lyrically storyline, I think it was we were open to trying to like get into different topics. Stuff that I wouldn't talk about before. Maybe whether it's, I mean, I felt like I won't get into exactly what all that is. I will say though that like. It felt like we were just writing about like we're a road band and we're on the road and we got family and they're far away and we love them and we miss them and everything felt like some weird twist-off version of a Journey Open Arms, or something, like that style of the song.
Yeah.
And while that has been good to us, at the same time, like want different things, songs like Glass House, very, or Survival Song. It's all about heart. There's a lot of love songs and stuff, but I feel like we kind of put. So I think that, and that's why like this record, I felt was really appropriate that High and Dry was like the kind of lead-off song, because that song was the first song that the band worked on, like after, like post Little America. That was like the first song that we all were like, man, we really like this, and we can't wait to sort of do more of this. Like whatever this is, we need to do more of it. Let's try to make as much of it as we can, and at the same time, lyrically, the story of that song kind of ties in to this, of how, as a band, we need each other, and it all sort of having the, because we don't all think the same, everyone's got, there's ebbs and flows to, like, there are times where we're listening to different music, we're learning different things at different times, and then there's moments in the, where things all kind of line up and things we are like parallel or moving together, and this record really reflects that, just privately, not even, as relationships with all of us. So I remember years ago, an old producer said to us that if you don't love the record, like, it doesn't matter, because people won't hear it. We disagree with that. We believe that, like, if you're not in love with what you're doing, it will show on the record. You'll hear it, and that means everything. So for us, it was like, we have no choice but to get into the right headspace, and that's what we did. So yeah, it was a big one for us.
Yeah. So then, do you guys have a sort of standout track for you on the record? That is either your favorite, or you feel like just really encompasses what Wanting is going to be?
I don't know. I feel like it changes every day. Right now, it's probably High and Dry. Probably circled back to like just that. Yeah, I think maybe just because we've been doing a bunch of stuff here, and the song's been, it's at radio right now, so it just feels very like we've been refreshed. And then it feels like we've been waiting a long time for this, so it feels like we finally, from the start of things now to the start of actually coming out, it feels like, okay, we've done it. Like we've rounded the circle, and now we're back, and here we go.
So you're also about to go on tour to support the album. Sort of talking a broad scope of tour.
Yeah.
Do you guys really have a favorite song performed live?
Well, 10 out of 12 of these songs we've never performed live.
So those are like the ones that are super like exciting.
Yeah,
right now.
I guess we'll know. Maybe after the first show, it's like, woo! I don't know, but I mean,
We're about to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in general, the new music, especially this record, is like every one of these songs it makes us like, we're just so excited to play the new stuff. Like, because you're like, this is the stuff that resonates the most, and the other stuff you're like, what were we thinking? It's like, just ready to like play this new stuff. I mean, I like playing Younger Years because it has rototoms in it. I'm trying to really make a statement about my rototom playing. Nobody else is playing rototoms anymore, but
not yet, man.
So obviously, when you go back to Ohio, it's going to be an incredible show. But do you have any other places across the country that, for you, typically give you these sort of moments and are your favorite places to play?
Yeah, I think we all have different pockets. Here in the city, we're going to be playing at Bowery Ballroom. I've always loved that room. I've always felt like that was a very special sort of like milestone, venue for us, getting a chance to play Bowery Ballroom. It was just such a, famous room. Where else? Where are other spots? Newport is technically the oldest venue, so that was.
It's kind of like our home base that we had in Columbus, and we haven't played there for like 5 years. We've been trying to get kind of fancy and play some venues that don't usually have concerts in some. And it's kind of a, it's always an interesting event trying to go in there and do those things, and they've they've definitely had mild levels of success and failure, and but we're ready to go back to our home base. It's going to be fun going back to Newport Music Hall in Columbus.
Yeah, absolutely.
we're just like, this is like a rock and roll record, whereas the last couple records have gone back and forth, but we've been we've like tried to prove our softer sides, and like that we don't always have to like be a rock and roll band to like put on a show. Like we can do an acoustic show, and we did a lot of growing that way. And I think we're finally like ready to be a rock band again.
Yeah.
And just like go and play rock and roll clubs. Like we wanted to move to different rooms to like be able to have like a chiller side of the set and show different sides. And now we're like, I just want to go play some rock and roll shows and like.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say to the fans? Anyone who hasn't listened to you guys before and think about checking it out after this interview?
Start with the new record.
Start with the new record.
Start with the current Red, Money, Blue.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then move backwards if you like.
That's what I would say, yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.